Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this regular monthly meeting of the Planning Commission for Cobb County. This meeting we'll have tonight is a little different than our typical monthly meetings. Once a year, we have this meeting where the Planning Commission, ahead of the BOC meeting, considers changes to the Cobb County Comprehensive Plan and Land Use Map. The Planning Division prepares a list for us every year of changes that they would like us to consider to the comp plan. And tonight we're going to have them presented to us for our consideration. So there'll be no zoning applications at all heard tonight. We'll be glad to take public comment on these as they're read. Philip Westbrook, Mr. Westbrook, raise your hand. Philip's going to lead our discussion tonight. Philip will read these into the record, and we'll ask at that time for each one if there's anyone wishing to make a comment on these. And if so, we'll hold those, and at the end, we'll ask you to come up and comment on those. The proposals that we're going to consider tonight come from several sources. We get them from the public, the Planning Commission, the BOC, Board of Commissioners, even the business community, and many of these are the result of zoning actions that have taken place during the past year. And then we have quite a few from the staff, that recommendations that they have made. These proposals are available on the web, on the county website. If you'd care to look at them, they've been up for several weeks. They'll be up for a while longer, so if you'd care to look at those, you can certainly do that. Before we get into the actual meat of the hearing, though, I do want to do a couple of things. Number one, I want to welcome Skip Gunther. This is his first meeting with the Planning Commission. Skip is District 2 representative appointed by District 1. That would be, I'm 2. I do know which one I represent, but Skip is joining us for the first time. He's the appointee from Commissioner Weatherford, who happens to be in our audience tonight. We're glad to have him with us here as well. So we want to welcome Skip. For those who have asked, Bob Hovey did elect to retire. He's been with us for a long, long time, I think 12 years, something like that. Served the county, served his district very well, and we'll miss Bob, but we're awfully glad to have Skip with us, so welcome to Skip. And mentioning Skip, we're going to move a few cases, couple I think you have tonight, 2. We're going to move those to the front of the agenda because he needs to leave a little early, so we're going to hear those first. But that's how things will go tonight. Philip, what other directions do you have for us?
Oh, that's it. I'm going to quickly go through the agenda that we have, go over the ZDs, the CPs, just describe what those are, and the SPs, and then we'll get right into the zoning decisions.
Okay, one other announcement, if I might make. If you have a cell phone, please turn it off or put it on vibrate. We do have a lot of wireless things going on here in this room, and if you have a cell phone on, it will really mess up our communication, so please turn your cell phones off.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
For the record, I'm Philip Westbrook, Cobb County Community Development, and we're going to start off by going over the zoning decisions and the commission proposals as well as the staff proposals, sort of describe what they are, and then we'll get into each case. The zoning decisions are already approved rezoning cases that are considered incompatible with the policies of the comprehensive plan. Staff research cases from October 2013 all the way out to, or this past October 2014 to determine which zoning cases to consider amending. The commission proposals, or CPs, are amendments to property tracts that respective district commissioners deem important enough to take a closer look at and consider changing. These proposals are the result of research, studies requested from various individuals and groups that the district commissioners have chosen to sponsor. The staff proposals are issues that have been brought forward by staff. Most of these amendments tend to be tweaks, corrections, and improvements to the comprehensive plan to ensure that the plan continues to meet the needs and the goals of the community. And with that, we can go ahead and get started. And I believe we will start with ZD6, which is in District 1. ZD6 is based on zoning case Z19, where the subject tract was rezoned from GC to LI in May of 2014. This is in Commission District 1, located between Highway 41 and Old Highway 41, southeasterly of McCullum Parkway. The current future land use is priority industrial area with subcategory community activity center, and the proposed future land use is priority industrial area with subcategory industrial compatible.
Excuse me, do we have anyone here in the audience tonight wishing to make comment on ZD6? Okay, not seeing any. Let's go to the next one.
ZD 18 is based on zoning case Z 60, where the subject tract was rezoned from R20 to RSL in October of 2014. This is in Commission District 1 and located on the southwest side of Dallas Highway, northwest side of Kennesaw View Drive and West Soundtown Road. The current future land use is low-density residential with a text amendment, and the proposed future land use is low-density residential with a change in the text. Would you like me to read the text? The change?
It probably wouldn't be a bad idea. Let's get that on the record, please.
It reads, in an effort to halt the expansion of commercial nodes, to assist with the revitalization of declining structures, and the need to provide an adequate transition and buffering to protect the surrounding VLDR and RR neighborhoods, the properties located along the south side of Dallas Highway, west of West Soundtown Road and east of Kennesaw View Drive are to be low-density residential. The LDR area should be constrained by Kennesaw View Drive and West Soundtown Road. Preferred developments in this LDR area would be made up of an assemblage of properties that may include senior living type developments with a single curb cut on Dallas Highway. Any development should maintain the focus of the development on Dallas Highway so that it can transition to a less intense development plan along Kennesaw View Drive in an effort to minimize impacts of the neighboring established residential areas.
Okay, and for those who want to see exactly how this text amendment lays out, it is on the website, and there are a couple of sentences that have been deleted and some new stuff that's been added, which has just been read into the record. Is anyone here wishing to speak to ZD 18? If you're not seeing and hearing any, we'll move on. Now, just so
That
Skip
concludes.
will understand, we will make a motion and approve these later. So if you need to slip out, unless you have-
We could go ahead and make the motion right.
well, we can.
on these.
Philip, is that suitable? Go ahead and do those.
That's fine, that's fine.
Okay, and then you can slip out if you need to. So why don't you just go ahead and make your motion for those two?
Okay, thank you. Thank you. The motion I'd like to make is that we deny this at this time and with
Which
the
one?
stipulation, am I not on?
Now, just which one are you talking about?
Which one are you talking, give us the first case that you're talking about, Skip.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm talking about ZD 18.
ZD.
I have no comments on ZD 6 other than that we approve it, we accept it.
Okay,
On ZD 18, my recommendation is that we deny this for the moment until the next cycle, simply because construction has not yet started on this particular parcel. It was there was a long involved process through the Z60 rezoning application with a lot of discussion by a lot of parties, and I think that I'd just like to see the construction start and see the development of the residential, the senior residential community that's planned to be there take shape before we actually make the changes to the text. The three changes that were proposed by staff for the text are a deletion that says so that it will not set a precedent for higher densities in this area of Cobb County. I would like to see that stay in for the moment. The second deletion was density should be a maximum of 2 units per acre for single-family detached dwelling units and a maximum of 4 units per acre for developments using the residential senior living zoning category. What was approved in Z60 for the residential senior living development that's going to be built there, presumably, was a much higher density. I would like to see those two phrases and sentences remain in the text amendment as it was originally constructed. My understanding is 5 or 6, 7 years ago. There's an addition which says to include senior living type developments. I really have no problem with that, but I think it's a cleaner approach just simply to deny these changes for the moment and then revisit this in the next cycle, which would be next year.
So just take Z.
okay, so you're referencing ZD 18 for that.
I'm sorry.
You're referencing ZD 18 for that one. That's the RSL, and ZD 6 for approval.
ZD 6 for approval and ZD
Okay.
18 deny with the stipulation that we revisit it in 1 year.
Okay.
And I will second that motion.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve ZD6 as presented and a motion
Commissioners,
to
if I
deny
might ask you, I think
ZD18. Beg your pardon?
if I might suggest, it would be best to have two separate motions.
Okay, we can do that.
ZD6 then.
All right, then I,
do six
I
first.
propose, I recommend that we accept ZD6.
I'll second it.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve ZD6 as presented, and we have a second. All in favor of the motion? Okay, so that passes.
Okay, and then I make a motion that we deny ZD18 with the stipulation that we revisit it in the next cycle, presumably a year from now.
And it is our understanding that this RSL, which is a senior housing project, a large one out on Dallas Highway, they're probably not going to break ground for quite some time, so there's ample time to study this going forward to be sure we get this right. So I think this is a good motion. We have a motion to deny. We have a second. All in favor of the motion? So that passes. So now, if you feel the need to go, you can slip on.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, I appreciate that.
You're very welcome, and welcome aboard. Okay, now we'll get back to our regular agenda, Philip.
Okay, we'll start back with ZD1 and move forward from there. The ZD1 is based on zoning case Z45, where the subject tract was rezoned from R30 to R15 in November of 2013. This is in Commission District 2 and located east of Oak Forest Circle, northeast of the terminus of Oak Forest Drive, east of Johnson Ferry Road. The current future land use is public institutional, and the proposed future land use is low-density residential.
Okay, this is in District 2, so that's my district. I agree wholeheartedly with what they're proposing here, so my recommendation is to accept this as proposed.
No, I think we did.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm
ask for
sorry.
it.
See, getting confused because we changed our agenda around a little bit. Let me ask the question. Anyone here wishing to speak to ZD1? All right, not seeing and hearing any. Now we're fine. Let's go ahead to the next one. Thank you.
ZD2 is based on zoning case Z67, where the subject tract was rezoned from LI to LRO in December of 2013. This is in Commission District 2, located at the northwest intersection of Church Road and North Church Lane. The current future land use is high-density residential, and the proposed future land use is neighborhood activity center.
Okay, anyone here wishing to speak to ZD2? Not seeing and hearing any. We'll go on to the next one.
ZD3 is based on zoning case Z6. The subject tract was rezoned from LI to HI in February of 2014. This is in Commission District 4 and located at the terminus of Troon Circle, south of I-20. The current future land use is priority industrial area with subcategory industrial compatible, and the proposed future land use is priority industrial area with subcategory industrial.
Okay, anyone here wishing to speak to ZD3? Okay, not seeing and hearing any. Let's go to the next one.
ZD4 is based on zoning case Z7, where the subject tract was rezoned from LI to LI in February of 2014. This is in Commission District 4 and located on the northeast side of Mableton Parkway between Honeycutt Road and Discovery Boulevard. The current future land use is priority industrial area with subcategory community activity center, and the proposed future land use is priority industrial area with subcategory industrial compatible.
Anyone here wishing to speak to ZD4? Okay, let's go to the next one, please.
ZD5 is based on zoning case Z16, where the subject tract was rezoned from R20 to HI in April of 2014. This is in Commission District 4 and located on the northeast side of White Road near the terminus of Harton Industrial Way. The current future land use is priority industrial area with subcategory industrial compatible, and the proposed future land use is priority industrial area with subcategory industrial.
Anyone here wishing to speak to ZD5? Okay, let's go to the next one, please.
ZD7 is based on zoning Z27. The subject tract was rezoned from RR to RM8 in July of 2014. It is in Commission District 2 and located on the southeast side of Audubon Drive, south of Fairfield Drive. The current future land use is park, recreation, conservation, and the proposed future land use is medium-density residential.
All right, that's in District 2, which is my district, and I do want to pull that one for discussion. So we'll list that one and talk about it later, ZD7. Anyone else from the public wishing to speak to ZD7? We have one other from the public as well. Okay, we'll pull that one. Go ahead, Philip.
ZD8 is based on zoning case Z30, where the subject tract was rezoned from R20 to O&I in June of 2014. This is in Commission District 4 and located on the east side of Austell Road, south of Fairview Drive. The current future land use is neighborhood activity center, and the proposed future land use is community activity center.
Anyone here wishing to speak to ZD8? Okay, not seeing
I
and
would
hearing.
like to pull that one.
Okay, so Gaunt wants to pull ZD8. for discussion, later discussion, okay? Go ahead, Philip.
All right. ZD9 is based on zoning Z42, where the subject tract was rezoned from GC to R20 was rezoned from GC and R20 to NRC and R20 in July of 2014. This is in Commission District 3 and located on the north side of Liberty Hill Road, south side of Hiawassee Drive, east of Canton Road. The current future land use is Neighborhood Activity Center and low-density residential, and the proposed future land use is a reorientation of the Neighborhood Activity Center and low-density residential that is consistent with the zoning of the property.
Anyone here wishing to speak to ZD 9? Okay, not seeing and hearing any. Let's go to the next one.
ZD 10 is based on zoning Z37, where the subject tract was rezoned from R20, R15 to RA6. It is in August, it was conducted in August of 2014. This is in Commission District 3 and located at the southwest intersection of Shallowford Road and Jamerson Road. The current future land use is low-density residential, and the proposed future land use is medium-density residential.
Anyone here wishing to speak to ZD 10? Okay, let's go to the next one.
ZD 11 is based on zoning Z41. The subject tract was rezoned from GC to LRC in August of 2014. This is in Commission District 4 and located on the southeast side of Austell Road, northeast of Austell Circle.
Anyone here? I'm sorry.
The current future land use is medium-density residential, and proposed future land use is Neighborhood Activity Center.
Gotcha. Anyone here wishing to speak to ZD 11?
I'd like to pull that one.
Okay, so ZD 11 will pull for later discussion. Okay. Go ahead.
ZD 12 is based on zoning case Z52, where the subject tract was rezoned from GC to LI in August of 2014. This is in Commission District 3 and located on the west side of Canton Road, south of Jamerson Road. The current future land use is Neighborhood Activity Center, and the proposed future land use is industrial compatible.
Anyone here wish to speak to ZD 12?
We need to discuss.
Okay, we're going to pull that one for future discussion at ZD 12. That's in District 3.
ZD 13 is based on zoning case Z56, where the subject tract was rezoned from R30 to RM6 in August of 2014. This is in Commission District 3 and located on the south side of Shallowford Road, east of Johnson Ferry Road. The current future land use is low-density residential, and the proposed future land use is medium-density residential.
Anyone here wishing to speak to ZD 13? Okay, not seeing and hearing any. We'll move on to the next one.
ZD 14 is based on zoning Z58, where the subject tract was rezoned from NS and R20 to R20 in September of 14. This is in Commission District 4 and on the northwest side of South Gordon Road, southwest of Veterans Memorial Highway. The current future land use is Neighborhood Activity Center, and the proposed future land use is medium-density residential.
Anyone here wishing to speak to ZD 14? Okay, not seeing and hearing any. Go to the next one.
ZD 15 is based on zoning Z59, where the subject tract was rezoned from LI to LI with stipulations in September of 2014. This is in District 3 and located on the northeast side of George Busby Parkway and on the west side of Fry Road. The current future land use is Community Activity Center, and the proposed future land use is industrial compatible.
Anyone here wishing to speak to ZD 15? I believe that's what we talked about
I'd like to pull that
pulling.
one.
So Christie wants to pull ZD 15 for discussion, future discussion. Okay, so we'll pull ZD 15.
ZD 16 is based on zoning Z62, where the subject tract was rezoned from GC and R20 to LI and CRC in September of 2014. This is in District 4 and located at the northeast intersection of Mableton Parkway and Honeycutt Road. The current future land use is priority industrial area with subcategory Community Activity Center, and the proposed future land use is priority industrial area with subcategory industrial compatible.
Anyone here wishing to speak to ZD 16?
I'd like to pull that one.
Okay, Galt wants to pull ZD 16 for future discussion. Okay.
ZD 17, based on zoning case Z 45, where the subject tract was rezoned from GC to RRC in October of 2014. This is in District 2 and located on the southwest side of Circle 75 Parkway, south of Windy Hill Road. The current future land use is Regional Activity Center with subcategory Retail Services, and the proposed future land use is Regional Activity Center with subcategory Office Services.
Anyone here wishing to speak to ZD 17? Okay, that's fine. Go to the next one.
And that concludes our zoning decisions.
Okay, so that's all the zoning decisions. Now, we want to go ahead and do the motion on those and get those out of the way. Why don't we do that? So we have 6 ZD proposals that we will pull and discuss. All the others have been submitted, and I believe they're going to be, I need a motion to approve them as presented. Can I get a motion?
I make a motion that we approve the ZD with the exception of ZD 6,
No, 7.
7, 8, 11, 12, 15, 16, and 18.
Read this
With the exception of, because we've already acted on 6 and 18, so with
That's
the
right.
I'll
exception of
second.
6 and 18, ZD 7, 8, 11, 12, 15, and 16.
That is correct. So we have a motion to approve those presented except the ones that were listed. Can I get a second?
Second.
We have a second.
For clarification,
Dana.
I just want to read into the record the ones that we're actually approving, so that the record is showing what we're approving through this motion, if that's all right.
Trying to
Yeah,
avoid
think
that.
I know, but so
I think I did that.
so we're approving ZD1, ZD2, ZD3, ZD4, ZD5, ZD9,
6. Been done.
ZD10, ZD13, ZD14, and ZD17.
Right.
That is
Yeah.
correct.
I think I did that, I think.
We'll be sure
But
that's
you
a part,
clarified
that's a
it. Thank
part
you,
of the
Dana.
motion. Thank you, Dana. Any further discussion? Not seeing and hearing any call for the vote. All right, that does pass 4-0. Okay, Philip, what's next?
You keep us on our toes over there.
Well, did you want to go ahead and finish up the pulled ZDs?
Oh, I'm sorry, we
Yeah,
do
we
need to go
have to-
back and take those. Let's start at the top. ZD 7 was the first one that we pulled. That's in District 2. Let's get back to that one. That's one that I asked to be pulled. This is, this site, was previously a tennis center in the middle of Indian Hill subdivision. Fell on hard times, wasn't really being utilized as a tennis center. They really couldn't raise the money to maintain the buildings there, and so the decision was made to sell the property, which is about 2 acres, something like that, I believe. And it was purchased by developer Brooks Chadwick. It had been designated PRC.
You have to let Jill speak first.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'm on a roll here. I might as well finish my comments here. But I was one of the ones who asked for the pool, so I'd have to comment anyway. Doesn't make any difference who goes next, I don't think. It was designated PRC, but it was approved by the BOC for townhomes with an RM8 zoning. And we need to revise the zoning category. So now, Jill, why don't you come up and tell us why you think we should not approve this as presented?
Or you could make the motion to reject it, and then Jill wouldn't have to say anything.
I think Jill wants to tell us. Go ahead.
I stayed down here. Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Jill Flam. I'm the Vice President of East Cobb Civic Association. With regard to ZD7 in the established Indian Hills subdivision, we recommend changing the future land use designation to LDR rather than MDR. The area surrounding this property is a mix of zoning categories that belong in both MDR and LDR categories, but the future land use map puts all these zonings in LDR. The zoning site plan for ZD7 successfully blended the elements of the existing R20 and RM8 zonings that border the property so as not to set a precedent for future zonings in this subdivision. We recommend the continuing use of the LDR category for this as well as the surrounding properties until, if desired in the future, the land use map is changed for all of Indian Hills subdivision. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jill. Anyone else wishing to speak to ZD7? Not seeing and hearing any, it's back to us. I totally agree with Jill's comments. I think we need to be consistent with the LDR category that's in all the other areas around this is LDR, and I think it should stay LDR. So I'm going to recommend we deny ZD7 as presented to medium
Second.
density, and we leave it as, or we change it to LDR.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. All in favor? That passes 4-0. The next one was
ZD8.
ZD8. Galt, that's yours. Anyone in the audience wishing to speak to ZD8? And Galt, that's up to
Okay.
you.
I asked for this to be pulled because in looking at it, while we did a zoning that would typically be in a community activity center, to make this actual parcel in a community activity center when we have neighborhood activity center on both sides and really both sides of the road going up and down in this area wouldn't make any sense. So I'm going to make a motion that we recommend denial of this ZD8.
I'll second.
So we have a motion to deny ZD8 and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor of the motion? So that passes 4-0. Thank you, Galt. The next one was ZD11. Anyone wishing to speak to ZD11? Galt, that's yours as well.
Okay. Once again, I asked for this one to be pulled because changing it from medium-density residential to neighborhood activity center would make it essentially one little spot in a bigger group. We did do the zoning because the property had been used for many, many years in a commercial fashion, but if it was to be redeveloped, we'd want to see it to be redeveloped residential to match all the neighboring parcels. So I'm going to recommend that we, deny ZD11.
So ZD11 deny and leave it as medium-density residential.
Yes.
We have a second. I'll second that. Discussion? Okay, all in favor of the motion? So that passes 4-0. So that takes care of ZD11. The next one is ZD12. Anyone here wishing to comment on ZD12? Carol, are you wishing to comment? Okay, come on up. We don't do swearing-ins for these hearings, so just come on up and give us your thoughts.
Good evening, Carol Brown with Canton Road Neighbors. This particular rezoning, I believe it was Z52, didn't get any opposition when it wanted to go from GC to LI. It's a self-storage facility that's been there for many years, and the only reason it rezoned, well, it wanted to add a U-Haul service to the existing business, and we didn't want to, oppose that for the business owners, but realistically, industrial compatible is not really the direction this area is trending. We've had revitalization of the area that's already in the NAC, and we just had a great rezoning approved Z37, which is just actually now changed from LDR to MDR on the corner of North Shallowford and Jamerson, and that's going to be upscale senior residential housing. And we just feel that the long-term trend to change it to industrial compatible simply because a business has added a U-Haul service, which may not be very long-term, we don't know. We don't think that this is the right way to go for this corridor. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Anyone else wishing to speak to ZD12? Christie, I believe this one is yours.
Thank you, and I agree with Ms. Brown's comments about the industrial compatible use not being the way that we want to see the area trend. In fact, the neighborhood activity center category was put in place as a result of the efforts of the Canton Road Corridor Study and all the work that's been done there over the years. So with this self-storage business having been in place, like many of the others along the corridor, adding the U-Haul as an additional service, I think is okay, because the big picture is we're looking for more neighborhood-oriented uses as the area continues to redevelop. So with that said, I'd like to recommend that we deny ZD7 or ZD12.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to deny leaving this as neighborhood activity center, correct? Okay, any other further discussion? All in favor? 4-0. Next is ZD 15. Anyone wishing to speak to ZD 15? Okay, Christie, I believe that's yours as well.
This is a similar situation, a self-storage facility adding a U-Haul rental use. Again, looking at the map and the established CAC, I don't feel that it's appropriate to change the land use map to industrial compatible for that one additional use to an existing business. So I'd like to recommend that we deny ZD 15.
Have a motion and a second to deny ZD 15. Any further discussion? All in favor? That passes 4-0. And lastly, we have ZD 16. Anyone wishing to speak to ZD 16? Okay, Galt, I believe this one's yours.
Okay, I asked for this one to be pulled. The underlying zoning was actually a split zoning between industrial compatible and I think it was community retail. Why can't I think of the acronym right now? But anyway, so really to change this from, they're both still going to be priority industrial, but to go from community activity center to industrial compatible doesn't make sense when the bigger part of the parcel is still really more a community activity center with retail and that. So I'm going to recommend for ZD 16 that we recommend denial.
Okay, on ZD 16, we have a recommendation for denial. Do we have a second? Christie seconds. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion? So that passes as well. And I believe that finishes the ZD cases. Philip, does it not?
That does. That concludes
can
our
move-
zoning decisions.
Okay, let's go to the commissioner proposals.
Okay. We'll start off with CP 2-1. CP 2-1 is in Commission District 2 and located south of Fort Drive and east of Oakdale Road. The subject site is owned by Cobb County and is known as Shoepage Park due to the rare presence of shoepage, which were created and used during the Civil War. The current future land use is medium-density residential, and the proposed future land use is park, recreation, conservation.
Okay, this is in District 2. Anyone here wishing to speak to CP 2-1? I had asked for this one to be pulled. This is actually land owned by Cobb County. It is a park. It's called Shoepage Park, which is, Philip said, is a Civil War fort. Of course, calling this residential area no longer fits, and so Parks and Recreation Conservation would be the appropriate way to go. So I would recommend approval of CP 2-1.
I think we're gonna do the whole thing.
I'm sorry.
Now,
You guys getting me confused here.
But if you wanna do it that way.
Well,
okay.
I know we could, but I'd rather not. Let's, we're gonna wait and do them all together. How about that? I'm sorry, Philip. Go ahead. I'm getting you out of sequence. Too many of these.
CP 3-1 is in Commission District 3 and located south of Big Shanty Road and east of Chastain Meadows Parkway. The subject site is approximately 81 acres and adjacent to the Town Center Regional Activity Center. The current future land use is medium-density residential, and the proposed future land use is Community Activity Center with a text amendment, and the text reads, in recognition of the existing land uses, zoning, and future land uses along Chastain Meadows Parkway and Big Shanty Road, the Board of Commissioners has established a Community Activity Center on the west side of Bells Ferry Road. Due to this CAC's proximity to stable residential communities and office uses, it is not desired to have residential or retail uses in this activity center, but instead support office and medical type land uses. Furthermore, due to the surrounding residential neighborhoods to the east, buffering to adjacent residential uses and land use transitions will be of paramount importance when reviewing development proposals.
Okay, anyone wishing to speak to CP 3-1? Christie, I believe this was one you wanted to, okay, so Christie is wanting us to pull this one, so we'll pull CP 3-1 for discussion in just a little bit. Okay, go ahead, Philip.
CP 3-2 is in Commission District 3 and located on the north side of Old Highway 41 at Kennesaw Avenue. The subject site is approximately 8.5 acres and is an industrial compatible future land use category and does not contain text related, it does contain text related to clean industrial uses and medical office uses. The proposal is to amend the future land use to medium density residential and delete the existing text policy.
Okay, here, anyone wishing to speak to CP 3-2? We have one, so we'll pull CP 3-2 for discussion here in a moment.
All right. CP 4-1 is in Commission District 4 and located south of Blair Bridge Road and Six Flags Drive, north of I-20. The subject site is an existing multifamily residential development zoned RM12, which is more compatible within a high-density residential land use category. The current future land use is Neighborhood Activity Center, and the proposed future land use is high-density residential.
Anyone here wishing to speak to CP 4-1? Okay, not seeing and hearing any. Let's go to the next one.
CP 4-2 is in District 4 and located around the intersection of Six Flags Drive, Blair Bridge Road, and Oak Ridge Road. The subject site does currently have policy text associated with the Neighborhood Activity Center that considers uses at the higher end of the NAC spectrum and possibly exceeding NAC floor area ratios. The current future land use is Neighborhood Activity Center with policy text, and the proposed future land use is medium density residential with the elimination of the existing policy text.
Anyone wishing to speak to CP 4-2? Okay, not seeing and hearing any. Let's go to the next one.
CP 4-3 is in District 4 and located west of Factory Shoals Road, south of Six Flags Drive. The subject site is Fire Station Number 9 and sits on approximately 2.5 acres. The current future land use is medium density residential, and the proposed future land use is public institutional.
Anyone here wishing to speak to CP 4-3? Okay, not seeing and hearing any. Let's go to the next one.
CP 4-4 is in District 4 and located east of Powder Springs Road, north of Dyson Road. The subject site is a 26-acre single-family residential subdivision. The current future land use is Community Activity Center, and the proposed future land use is medium-density residential.
Anyone wishing to speak to CP 4-4? Okay, we have one person, so we'll pull 4-4. Okay.
CP 4-5 is in District 4 and located east of New Macklin Road and south of Macedonia Road. The subject site is a single-family residence surrounded by other single-family homes and a church. The current future land use is Community Activity Center, and the proposed future land use is low-density residential.
Anyone here wishing to speak to CP 4-5? Okay, not seeing and hearing any. Go to the next one.
CP 4-6 is in District 4 and located north of the South Gordon Road and Blair Bridge Road intersection. The subject site is the entrance to Bryant Elementary School. The current future land use is low-density residential, and the proposed future land use is public institutional.
Anyone here wishing to address CP 4-6? Okay, not seeing any. Let's go to the next one.
CP 4-7 is in District 4 and located east of Harris Street, north of Veterans Memorial Highway. The subject site is currently a single-family residence surrounded by other residential uses to the north and east, and the city of Austell to the south, and industrial compatible to the west. The current future use is Community Activity Center, and the proposed future land use is medium-density residential.
Anyone here wishing to speak to CP 4-7? Okay, not seeing any. Let's go to the next one.
CP 4-8 is in District 4 and located on the southwest corner of Mableton Parkway and Old Powder Springs Road intersection. The subject tract is 2 undeveloped parcels that extend into the residential neighborhoods along the south side of Old Powder Springs Road. The current future land use is Community Activity Center, and the proposed future land use is low-density residential.
Anyone wishing to speak to CP 4-8? Okay, let's go to the next one.
CP 4-9, also in District 4 and located just south of Dodgen Road on the east side of Mableton Parkway. The subject tract is 2 undeveloped parcels totaling approximately 7.5 acres sandwiched between a single NAC parcel and medium-density residential. The current future land use is community activity center, and the proposed future land use is medium-density residential.
Anyone wishing to speak to CP 4-9? Okay, not seeing any. Let's go to the next one.
CP 4-10 is in District 4 and located west of Floyd Road, Floyd Drive intersection. The subject tract is owned by Cobb County for the purpose of parking for access to the Silver Comet Trail, basically a trailhead. The current future land use is a neighborhood activity center, and the proposed future land use is park recreation conservation.
Anyone wishing to speak to CP 4-10? Okay, not seeing any. Let's go to the next one, please.
CP 4-11, District 4 also, located south of Veterans Memorial Highway, east of Queens Mill Road. The subject tract is made up of 4 parcels totaling approximately 24 acres. The current future land use is industrial, with the proposed future land use being neighborhood activity center along the 3 parcels fronting Veterans Memorial Highway, transitioning to medium-density residential to the rear of the tract.
Anyone here wishing to speak to CP 4-11? Okay, let's go to the next one, please.
4-12 is also in District 4 and located west of Mableton Parkway, north of Boggs Road. The subject tract is made up of 7 single-family residential parcels. The current future land use is community activity center, and the proposed future land use is low-density residential.
Anyone here wishing to speak to CP 4-12? Okay, let's go to the next one.
CP 413 is in District 4 and located east of Montezuma Drive and south of Moselle Drive. The subject tract is 2 parcels, approximately an acre, and split by the new Mableton Town Center future use category that recognizes this area as the Mableton Form-Based Redevelopment District. The current future land use for the most western parcel is Mableton Town Center with the Community Activity Center subcategory, and for the east parcel is Community Activity Center. The proposed future land use is Mableton Town Center with subcategory low density residential for the west parcel and low density residential for the east parcel.
Okay, anyone wishing to speak to CP 4-13? Okay, let's go to the next one.
CP 4-14 is in Commission District 4 and located southwest of Cliff Drive, southwest of Old Powder Springs Road, south of Old Bankhead Highway. The subject tract totals almost 5 acres and is currently single-family residences under multiple zoning designations. The current future land use is Community Activity Center, and the proposed future land use is low-density residential.
Anyone here wish to speak to CP 4-14? Okay, let's go to the next one.
CP 4-15 is in District 4 and located southeast of South Gordon Road, east of Belcher Circle. The subject tract is currently being utilized as residential within a residential character area. The current future land use is Community Activity Center, and the proposed future land use is low-density residential.
Anyone here wishing to speak to CP 4-15? Okay, go to the next one, please.
4-16 is in Commission District 4 and located west of Mableton Parkway, south of South Gordon Road. The subject tract is currently undeveloped with split future land use designations. The current future land use is Neighborhood Activity Center and medium density residential, and the proposed future land use is medium density residential.
Anyone here wishing to speak to CP 4-16? Okay, let's go to the next one.
CP 4-17, District 4, located east and west of Mableton Parkway and south of Veterans Memorial Highway. The subject tract makes up approximately 18.5 acres under a variety of zonings. The current future land use is Neighborhood Activity Center, and the proposed future land use is medium density residential.
Anyone wishing to speak to CP 4-17? Okay, let's go to the next one, please.
CP 4-18, Commission District 4, located east of Mableton Parkway, north of South Gordon Road. The subject tract is almost 12 acres surrounded by single-family homes in a residential character area. The current future land use is Neighborhood Activity Center, and the proposed future land use, medium-density residential.
Anyone here wish to speak to CP 4-18? Okay, Okay, next one, please.
And our final commission proposal, 419, is in District 4 and located at the intersection of Andrew Drive and Palmer Place, just north of Veterans Memorial Highway. The subject tracts are currently single-family homes within a single-family neighborhood. Current future land use is Neighborhood Activity Center, and the proposed future land use, low-density residential.
Anyone here wish to speak to CP 4-19? Okay, not seeing and hearing any. That concludes our CP list. We did have three that we did pull, CP 3-1, 3-2, and 4-4. Everybody concur, those are the three? Okay, why don't we pull those up? Go ahead and get the comments. Anyone wish to speak to CP 3-1?
Let's make a motion to address them.
Okay, we can do that first. All the others, and Dana's going to insist we read them into the record. Do you have a listing you'd like to read for us?
Of course, sir.
Well, why don't you read those for us?
I'm gonna make a motion that we approve the CPs, and Dana is going to list them.
The ones that were not pulled.
Please.
The items that were not pulled were 2-1, 4-1, 4-2, 4-3, 4-5, 4-6, 4-7, 4-8, 4-9, 4-10, 4-11, 4-12, 4-13, 4-14, 4-15, 4-16, 4-17, 4-18, and 4-19.
As presented.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve those that Dana just read into the record. We have a second from Galt. Any further discussion? All in favor of approving those? So that does pass. Now, the ones that we did pull, let's start with CP 3-1. Anyone wishing to speak to that, come forward. Come on up, Carol, and give us your name, please.
Carol Brown with Canton Road Neighbors. This particular change causes concern. There are existing very stable, low-density residential neighborhoods to the east. There is a 40-acre tract in the middle that currently has a pending zoning that is trying to come in for OS, which would not be compatible were this changed to a CAC. It would need to go in a RAC. Of the 40-acre tract that's coming in February, there are only 23 usable acres. 16 of those are in floodplain. It's a steep lot, and this is an environmentally sensitive lot. In the not too distant past, Z69 came in for student housing as an RM8. And I believe, and I'm sure that many of the people, the residents who live around this, feel that there are still probably opportunities for this to build out as MDR. I note that you want some sort of a transition between the RAC of Town Center and the low-density residential neighborhoods, but apparently that's really not what's coming down the pike. We're looking at a rezoning that's coming in February that's going to be looking at a flood compensation plan. I think that I can speak for a lot of the people in the area, even though this is not traditionally our area, but they would rather see this stay medium-density residential, at least for a while longer, rather than see it go to CAC. And it just, Bells Ferry has always been residential, and I think people would feel better if it stayed that way. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Anyone else wishing to speak to CP 3-1? Okay, this is Christie's, I believe. Okay.
Thank you. We had a similar discussion this afternoon at our work session about how to treat the Bells Ferry corridor while looking at this proposed land use amendment. This is really a transition zone. The area between Chastain Meadows and Bells Ferry is between two very different types of areas. The town center rack is very heavy there's some nice new developments and some really stable business uses in that area. As Ms. Brown said, we did have an application for a residential component that I don't know if it was withdrawn or what happened with that, but it was for high density residential was what we were looking at most recently. So this proposal, I think, comes about as a result of some of the conversations that took place around that zoning application that didn't turn into anything new. I agree that the Bells Ferry corridor needs to be protected. It is primarily low-density residential. A lot of the medium-density residential development on the corridor is oriented towards senior housing, or at least housing that's designed for 55 and up. And I would not like to see anything access Bells Ferry that is a non-residential use. On the other hand, this is 81 acres that we're talking about, and I think the area on the corner of Big Shanty and Chastain Meadows, for instance, has a different orientation than the part of this property that has Bells Ferry Road frontage. So what I'm, I guess, looking for is maybe a modified proposal of some sort. I'm open-minded to commercial uses, as has been recommended in the text amendment, that focus on medical, support office, other types of office uses, not retail. I think we've got plenty of retail in the area, and that's not necessarily the direction that I think we need to take with this property, but definitely office uses would be welcome. And I do think that there should be a window left open for appropriate residential uses, especially anything, like I said, that would access Bells Ferry. As far as a recommendation for the CP that we're looking at tonight, I don't know if it's appropriate just to send along comments or request staff to come up with a proposed amendment to the map that could be presented to the board. But what I would envision is something that's a combination of CAC on the north side of the property where Big Shanty and Chastain Meadows intersect, and then maybe maintaining the MDR to some degree on the west side of the floodplain area where it meets Bells Ferry. I think there's some natural features that we can use as boundaries. If we could just have another look at that before the Board of Commissioners makes a final decision.
Certainly, we can do that.
So we're looking at a denial with a recommendation to staff that we try to figure out where those boundaries actually need to be.
All right.
And then make that recommendation to the Board of Commissioners. Is that what I'm
I
hearing?
think so. Go ahead.
If you're gonna be making a recommendation for part of the area to be in a community activity center, then I think you would need to make an approval of a revised motion per the boundaries that you described.
Okay.
And I think to assist our county clerks, I think that's what I heard you say. But I might not have heard it properly.
I think I can do that. I know what you're talking about, where we would approve a change.
To what was
Not
proposed.
what's presented,
Correct.
a modified
So
version.
it's not a denial
That would
as
be,
such.
that's correct, because you're approving a change, you're just not approving the change that staff presented in front of you.
Have we done that?
Let me ask Deborah. I have a little bit of a problem because we don't, I mean, I know what Christy's trying to, because we talked about it, what she's trying to say, but I don't know how we're gonna come up with those lines right now, at
We
this very
can't.
minute.
That's-
I can
that's the problem.
try.
We
I
can't
can-
come up with those lines, I don't think.
I can,
We don't have a map in front of us that shows the detail that we'll need.
I think I can give some guiding language and then maybe add some additional words to the proposed text amendment, if that helps.
Sorry.
Why don't we try
paying
that?
attention.
I think maybe what you might can do is if you take staff to understand what you said, that you can make a motion that you're gonna approve the modification that you're gonna direct staff to make.
Staff has to determine where those boundaries will fall.
Based upon the direction given.
Right.
If you're willing to give that discretion to staff to take what you said.
Without a
Well,
C?
that's a little tricky too, but
That
I
is very
think the
tricky.
point is, it's kind of what Ms. Brown said, this area still has potential for a lot of different things. And I don't necessarily want to just broad brush 80 acres of community activity center, even if we do have the language that limits it to office. I don't want to close the door on residential opportunities.
Do we have a general idea of where we think medium-density residential should fall versus the CAC? Do we
Based
have a
on
general
what
idea?
the
I think we have a
Commissioner
general
Tomei has
idea.
told
How
me,
do we?
I have a very general idea of where she is pointing to as
I
far as
think we all do, it's just
residential.
how do we articulate that?
Maybe Ms. Brown
Correct.
has an idea.
If you were to do that, I would.
Carol, come on up, if you don't mind. Carol, I know, has spent a considerable amount of time looking at this. I really don't mind hearing what your thoughts are.
I just have something that might help.
Well, come on back to the podium.
I have a site plan for Z69, which shows the floodplain.
Okay.
That's really what I had in mind. I remember on that particular plan, part of the property would be accessed from Bells Ferry and the other part from Chastain Meadows. And I think that is probably a logical
Yeah,
place.
we're on the right track.
Yeah,
This is.
because the floodplain is a natural
And Big Shanty
You
is,
wanna get,
this
see
is
what
the
she has to say
deterrent,
if we
I
can-
guess.
this is the existing.
What we wanted to do was keep the commercial off Bell's Ferry.
Exactly.
It's gonna be better than mine.
And leave that open for opportunities
That's
for
right.
residential.
Exactly right.
And then everything up at,
Yeah, this is Big Shanty.
Big Shanty
And
and.
Chastain Meadows.
Chastain
Right, so
Meadows,
it's gonna be
we
better
wanted
than
to leave
mine, so
open
don't
for the
embarrass me.
commercial side.
Yeah, you're right.
I think you can articulate it right now.
Can we just extend this
I
line?
think he's gonna try to project what she has.
Yeah, let's see if we can project that. I don't know
He's
if
gonna
that's,
put it up here.
I'll let you.
Do you have your preliminary analysis by chance?
technology is wonderful when it works.
I don't
We
want-
just don't have, we don't have the GIS.
Oh, good.
I know, and next time we're going to.
It helps,
That might be easier.
because you never know what discussion, and you don't know what discussion is gonna be needed.
I think it might have been
That
Z10.
was, when was that? From 2013?
This is the February one, so sorry, what am I looking at? With the OS.
Oh, no, that's not gonna show.
It's not gonna show the floodplain.
They got two humongous big box buildings sitting right in the floodplain.
And then they're showing the floodplain. Okay,
It's,
that's the better
I
one.
think some of the thinking with C69 was that residential might not be a bad idea, but the high density was opposed by most of the community. Therefore, now we're looking at a proposal to get rid of that opportunity, but I think, like I said, it's a lot of property to broad brush with CAC.
This is probably the largest tract, 81.1 acres. This is the largest tract we'll consider, so it's complicated.
Mm-hmm.
And we all agree that part of this probably should remain medium-density residential. It's just where do we draw that line? What direction can we give to staff?
I really think the floodplain is probably,
Well, isn't the floodplain mostly in the southern part, Carol? On
It
this,
runs
on this
through
map?
I think it's actually.
it's in the
Actually,
middle,
it kinda, yeah, it goes along, almost parallels Chastain.
Does it?
and then
Right,
comes up,
but that's mostly the southern part. That's where that creek is.
comes up, it comes
This
through
area right in
here.
here, that's the
Isn't it
floodplain.
like this?
That is the floodplain right there. Okay, now, can you point out where,
Where's Bells Ferry Road?
It's up in this area.
at the very top part?
That's not a very good map to be on.
Just chop that off there.
This is Big Shanty here.
And where's
Okay.
Chastain Meadows at, Phil?
Chastain Meadows is south, kind of sort of off the screen.
It's off the map.
Sort of parallels the floodplain.
Okay, okay.
This corner here is the corner, the sort of the narrow corner on the amendment.
Right here.
That it gets close to Chastain Meadows.
It's right here. Okay.
drew a line straight across.
That's
where
what
that
I just said.
subdivision is.
That's what I just said. Just took them straight
Straight
across.
that subdivision is there.
Like, you talking about right here?
No, the subdivision. The one right here. Where the, right there at the top where it says the MDR, take a line across.
You talking about right here?
Right here, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Yeah. You just take that line across.
You have a good idea now?
I think so.
At least make that as a suggestion with them refining
would want more
it before it gets to the BOC. Straight across.
I don't think this helps draw
See
the
this
line down. It
subdivision
doesn't
right
add a
here?
whole lot.
Goes straight across.
We have, if that's the direction, we understand.
Does that
Wouldn't
make
that
sense?
work?
Does that make sense, Christie? Just,
So keep that residential.
and this becomes your MDR?
Well, my thought is that anything with Chastain Meadows frontage could be eligible for the change to CAC, given the text amendments. But I would like for part of the area, well, all of the frontage on Bells Ferry to some depth to remain MDR for now. That's my thinking, so that
We-
Bells Ferry can clearly be residential.
So you're thinking more of having a
Is it,
dividing line down through here?
Is it okay if I pull up, I have a parcel map here.
That would be
We
fine.
pulled up on the iPad, and it might help distinguish our boundaries, because I think there's a parcel that goes along with exactly what you're talking about.
All right there it is.
Can you zoom into this area right in here?
And it
That's-
is a landlocked line.
I think if you took,
Now, do you see the parcel here? Goes across, perhaps MDR in this area. I'm sorry, in this area, and then CAC,
on the
the
remainder,
remaining.
I think that gets as close
yeah.
as we can to the idea that I'm trying to convey. And then the text amendment for the CAC portion is appropriate.
So how do you put that in a motion?
How do you define that area?
We can
What is the?
very detailed and define it by the parcel number.
Well, I mean, if we have to.
He's gonna draw it,
Okay.
and then you'll have an exhibit.
Dana, are you gonna draw it?
I'm drawing it right now.
Okay.
And we'll have an exhibit.
I just wanna check, and I check with you to make sure it's what you are
Okay.
recommending first, before
Okay.
I bring it over for that, just to make sure it's accurate.
Everybody to know that this is live. This is
Well-
not a delayed broadcast. This is live.
And the thing about it
It's
is,
exciting TV.
you know, the lines could move depending on what kind of proposal we have to look at. I think the point is Bells Ferry really needs to be protected as a residential.
And I think
So
that's
are
what
you
we-
saying that that is MDR and that is community activity center?
Yes.
Where's your MDR?
Yep.
That's it.
Okay, I'll put
That's
that
it.
up and that will be,
That's it.
Okay.
And if that's, if it's the same thing, I believe that western boundary, right there, that western boundary, that would be the difference between MDR and CAC, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, is floodplain, so that would be that could potentially be a
That's
buffer.
even better.
That's even better.
And that's what
That's
I
better.
thought too from Z69, that there was a pretty clear,
What you just
boundary there.
identified, Philip, is exactly what he just drew.
Okay.
If we can get that on the board, I think we're in agreement
Where
there.
did you draw? Okay.
And then you'll need to refine it before it gets to the BOC.
Perfect.
can I try to make a motion?
Can you point that out?
This,
Where-
Whoever thought this would be so complicated.
in here,
I know.
MDR,
It's 81 acres.
closest to Bells Ferry, and then the remainder of the proposal being CAC,
With the text amendments.
with the text amendment.
That's good.
That's what I had
And
in
it only took
mind.
20 minutes to get there.
Well,
That's-
we get it right.
Yeah, and this is right.
Yes. Okay, I'd like to make a motion that we recommend CP 3-1 be approved, subject to the changes presented on the map tonight that will be redrawn by staff and presented to the Board of Commissioners, and also including the text amendments proposed.
Second.
I think we have it. Any further discussion? All in favor of that motion? Okay, Philip, we reasonably clear?
Thank you, Carol.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you. Thank you,
We're good.
Carol, very much. Okay, that's CP 3-1. The next one we have to consider is CP 3-2. Anyone wishing to address that one, please come forward. Yeah, come on up. Give us your name.
Yeah, my name is David Rich. I'm a homeowner in the Kennesaw area. I think it's something to reconsider on that parcel of land for the office use. The roadways there, Stylesboro, Kennesaw, Old 41, and Ridenour are all single lane each direction. There are 2 seasons here in that part of town on the east side of Kennesaw Park. In the summertime, that place is packed with cars. They park on both sides of Ridenour. There's one parking structure outside of the park, in the park area, outside away from the actual tourist center, that is filled all the time. The nonstop of people walking their dogs and what have you leads to a lot of congestion in that area. In the wintertime, like it is now, Old 41, where Stylesboro and Old 41 meet, and where Kennesaw Road meets Old 41, those roads are backed up. I come off the north side, and the road is backed up for a quarter of a mile, at least. That's a Stylesboro exit, heading south. I think putting 200 homes there, just by simple math, that's 200 vehicles there on a permanent basis in an area where there's no parking, a very heavily congested area. It's one of the most visited historic sites in the country, from what I understand. And I think putting that in there is just going to add way too much confusion and congestion in that area. I think putting medical office buildings there and other offices would allow Kennestone Hospital to expand some of their services to more of the community in that area, and in that time frame it would leave a parking structure or parking lot surface area for people to also park in rather than alongside the roads like they do now. So I think for the residents that live around here, it's congested enough on these single lane roads with no proposal to widen these roads in any way, shape, or form. You're going to add significant traffic and congestion to a place that's already congested. I think it's worth looking at again and considering these issues. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much for your comments. Anyone else wishing to speak to CP 3-2? Is this yours, Galt? Christie's? Okay.
On CP 3-2, I agree with the traffic concerns that have been expressed. I don't drive in this area every day, but the times that I have, especially around the 5 o'clock hour during peak traffic times, it is really uncertain. You really don't know how much time to plan to get from Bells Ferry, say, out to the other side of Stylesboro Road, just because of this area right here that becomes a bottleneck. The other concern I have about introducing medium-density residential in the area is the fact that it's surrounded by industrial uses, including a railroad or a rail line. And we've got evidence nearby of some of the problems that can occur with the conflict between residential and established industrial uses. So before we make this change and add a medium density recommendation here, I think there would need to be a lot more discussion about the area in general and what types of safeguards would need to be in place before residential could be included on this side of Old 41. So I'd like to make a recommendation that we recommend denial on CP 3-2.
Okay, do we have a second? We have a second. And as far as discussion goes, just so you folks will be aware that we did hear in our discussion before this meeting that there are some splost funds that will be spent, I don't know exactly when, in this area on road improvements at some of the major intersections, because we all realize that this is a very congested area. especially certain times of the day, morning and afternoon. So that may help mitigate some of this, but I tend to agree with Christie, and I'll support that motion. A motion is second. Any further discussion? All in favor? So we're going to deny CP 3-2. Okay. We can make that announcement. Yeah, just, let me go ahead and, Christie just reminded me, this will be heard by the Board of Commissioners, on all of these will be on the 20th of January. So any of you that are giving testimony, if you wish to do that again, and we would encourage you to do that, you need to be back here on the 20th of January. And let me remind everyone, again, speakers are given 3 minutes each to make their comments, and we try to enforce that rule where we can. The last one we have to consider is CP 4-4. Anyone wishing to comment on CP 4-4? Okay, Galt, I believe you were the one who asked us to pull that. Did we have one? Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't see you there. Come on up. Give us your name and tell us what you'd like us to know.
Okay, my name is Randy Harris. I'm a homeowner. I'm in favor of needing more information on this plan. We need to understand what type of dwelling this will be, whether it be fixed or mobile. There are a lot of mobile homes in the area, and we need to understand what impact that will be on our property. Also, congestion is an issue. Although they've expanded Windy Hill to reach out to, the 75 corridor, that's good, but it's still congested. I need to understand, or we need to understand, the exit and entrance points of this subdivision, understanding where they will enter and exit, because it will affect our property. So I request that we postpone or table this until we find more information on what type of dwelling and how it will affect our property and exit and entrance points. Residents, of course, will welcome a change if it increased their value of their property. So we need to understand that clear. So I recommend that we at least discuss this further and find out more about the particulars on this dwelling.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Anyone else wishing to comment on CP 4-4? Sure, come on up. Just give us your name, please.
Hi, Robert Taylor, and been a Marietta resident for just about 18 years. I apologize in advance. This is my first trip to the rodeo here, so I apologize if I break any kind of protocol of any kind. But basically gonna piggyback a little bit on what the gentleman said, Mr. Harris. I'm not quite sure if there's any kind of economic impact study that's done for these things. I would love to see more homes. Don't know the types of homes. So if there was any intent, or if the commission had seen a proposal for what's going to be developed there, if it's available and to be published on the site, we would love to see that, or I would love to see that. The area has changed. I've lived in this subdivision close to here, Macklin Station, for over 18 years. This is where my children, well, at least the second of the two, were born and grew up. We love it there. We don't want to move, but there's a lot of changes. We used to see a beautiful Georgia pine trees a lot. Now there's a strip mall directly in front of my subdivision, and it's ugly. So with that said, I just want some additional information of sorts. What's the plan? Let's see what there is. I do like the idea of an MDR, but just there's no specifics. So if we can see that, that would just give me and my family a little bit more comfort.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Taylor. Anyone else wishing to speak to CP 4-4? Okay, Galt, understand, folks, this is not a zoning we're talking about. I'm not sure people always understand that, but Galt, you want to go ahead with this one?
Yeah, hopefully I can explain a little bit and clarify, and anybody else who can clarify, jump in. Essentially, what we're doing with this change to or amendment to the comprehensive plan is really recognizing the subdivision that's already been built there as a medium-density residential versus what was initially planned for that area, which was a commercial use. So this really isn't going to impact a new subdivision or anything like that because this one's already built. We're just changing the plan essentially to match what's there. We aren't changing the other areas around there that aren't developed. Those are remaining what they are. We're really just pulling out the subdivision and saying, this was built as a medium-density residential subdivision, and we just want the comprehensive plan to match that. So it's really not introducing new development at this time or anything of that nature. So hopefully that addresses your concerns in that. Just nod a little bit if I've explained it and it makes sense.
Is that Macklin Station?
It's not really a zoning. We're not changing any of the zoning. This is the land use map, which is a recommendation for what might go there. And a medium-density residential simply means that the density could be up to, I think it's up to 5 units per acre.
That's correct.
It was 2.5.
Do we know what the zoning is? 2.5 to 5. Do you know what the zoning for most of this is now? Galt, do we know?
I forget. I'll have
Is
to look
it,
real quick.
I know it was projected for commercial, for shopping center.
Yeah.
We're taking it out of that
We're
classification.
removing
into-
that
to
altogether.
residential.
Yeah, because it is residential, so we're just reflecting that is all we're doing.
I think the zoning on this is RA4, if I'm not mistaken.
RA4, which is 4
Okay.
units per acre.
Is this Macklin Station that we're talking about? Could this be?
Yes,
Your,
yes.
this is your neighborhood that's on the
Yeah.
map, that's on the screen?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So essentially, we're just recognizing what it is. It's no
Gotcha.
new development, just,
Gotcha, and I spoke with Philip earlier and I understood that. But I wasn't sure, aside from the land use aspects, like I said, I am in favor of the MDR switch
yeah.
because
Maybe come back up to the podium so you can, sorry. Forget we're on TV sometimes.
Sorry, this is Robert Taylor again. Like I said earlier, I am in favor of the MDR switch from the CAC on principle. I just wasn't sure if there was a specific plan after that to go ahead and do anything. So if this is strictly a land use proposal, and then I guess if there is a zoning thing to happen, again, later we will hear about that, and then we can take action on those things.
Exactly
So,
right. If
okay.
somebody came in and wanted to assemble a lot of these properties and do something entirely different, that would very likely require a zoning, and believe me, we would hear from you then.
Yes, sir.
So
Okay,
we're not changing any of that.
thank you all.
We're just recognizing what it is.
Got it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, Galt, why don't you go ahead with the motion now?
Okay. Well, with all that said, and hopefully we've explained everything, I'm going to make a motion that we go ahead and approve CP 4-4 as presented.
Okay, we have a motion and a second by Ms. Trombetti. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion? So that passes 4-0. Okay, I believe that's the last of the CPs that we needed to discuss. Yep, I think so. What's next,
Yes, it
Phillips?
is. And the last item on our comprehensive plan amendment agenda, staff proposals. There are a total of 4 staff proposals that are being proposed with the main intent and purpose of the proposals to strengthen the economic development policies and strategies within our comprehensive plan. SP1, our staff proposal 1, proposes amending the economic development policy 3.7 with the intent to promote and support the 7 targeted industry segments that have been endorsed by Cobb's Competitive Edge initiative. In the current form, policy 3.7 reads, support the growth of targeted industries. SP1 proposes to strike through that and add, promote and support the various programs associated with the 7 targeted industries identified within Cobb's Competitive Edge. They include healthcare services, travel and tourism, bioscience, aerospace and advanced equipment manufacturing, information technology and software, professional and business services, and wholesale trade.
So that's SP1.
That is SP1.
Okay, anyone wishing to speak to SP1? Okay, let's go to the next one, please.
SP2 proposes amending the economic development policy section by adding an additional policy 3.10 with the intent to promote and support the development of small businesses. SP2 proposes to add policy 3.10, which reads, encourage and promote the development of small businesses within all industries. Cobb County uses the Small Business Administration's table for business size standards matched to the North American Industrial Classification System codes for identifying small businesses.
And so that is SP2. Anyone wish to speak to SP2? Okay, let's go to the next one, please.
SP3 proposes amending text within our supplemental plans section of the implementation program within our comprehensive plan by adding 2 new studies to that list. The 2 studies are the Northwest Cobb Land Vulnerability Analysis and the Cobb's Competitive Edge.
And that is SP3. Anyone wish to speak to SP3? Okay, last one, Philip.
SP4 proposes to add 1-page study synopsis for each of the plans that are referenced within the supplemental plans section in the comprehensive plan. The purpose of this proposal is to strengthen the supplemental plans section of the comprehensive plan policy to ensure these plans are followed and to also provide a quick summary of information for all the studies that have been adopted or accepted.
And that is SP4. Anyone wish to speak to SP4? All of these are really just designed to strengthen the growth and development, especially among our small businesses in Cobb County. That's really what this is. Okay, any further discussion?
I make a motion, we approve SP 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Can we do that together? Okay, so we have a motion and a second to approve all the SPs. Any further discussion? All in favor? So SB 1, 2, 3, and 4 are approved as presented. Now, Philip, you want to do the LCI?
Yes, sir.
We have one last bit of business, which Philip's going to lead us through as well, having to do with the Mableton LCI.
Okay, I'm going to try to breeze through this one. The voice is starting to go.
That's fine.
So, finally, the last item on the agenda tonight is for the Planning Commission to consider a recommendation of the Historic Mableton Preservation and Improvement Plan 5-Year Livable Centers Initiative update to the Board of Commissioners. The update is a requirement by the Atlanta Regional Commission to provide a detailed assessment of the implementation progress from the last 5 years and to make needed adjustments to ensure continued plan implementation for the next 5 years. We're going to skip this. This basically goes over the slides that we'll be looking at. A little bit of an introduction. The Mableton LCI study is a Livable Centers initiative, which is a program created by the Atlanta Regional Commission that encourages local governments to create plans that link transportation improvements with land use development strategies to create mixed-use communities consistent with the regional development policies. As is the case with all LCI studies, the Mableton LCI includes an implementation strategy with a 5-year action plan and requires 5-year updates. If the community chooses to continue plan implementation, which Cobb County has in this case, the ARC allows LCI sponsors to conduct 2 5-year updates. After the second 5-year update, or at the 15-year mark, ARC requires a complete overhaul of the LCI study, and this is the second 5-year update for the Mableton LCI. A little bit of background. The Mableton LCI study is also known as the Historic Preservation and Improvement Plan, which was adopted as an LCI study in 2001. The original study saw a number of action items implemented, including the construction of the South Cobb Regional Library. In 2009, the study underwent a 5-year update where significant progress was made toward implementing the action items from the original plan. This update included expansions of the LCI area and included key tracks that could be instrumental in redevelopment efforts. Since 2009, the efforts of from the Atlanta Regional Commission's Lifelong Community Charrette that led to the design workshop by Dwayne Pleiter and Zyberg, it's a consultant firm. A new illustrated master plan was adopted. The Mableton Town Center master plan has resulted in an evolving Mableton LCI area and has been the blueprint for further redevelopment and quality life efforts. Some of the requirements for staff to update this report. There are standards that the ARC has requested of us to make sure that we meet and ensure consistency and continued plan implementation. To update the LCI, staff must provide an evaluation and appraisal report. The document must also include an implementation plan and a 5-year action plan, and then ultimately a resolution with approval by the BOC. Quickly, the evaluation and appraisal report is sort of a report of accomplishments. As you can see, there were a total of 36 projects. These projects include a combination of transportation projects, housing initiatives, and local initiatives. 42% were completed, 28% were not completed. 19% are in progress, are ongoing, are under construction, and 11% are no longer relevant. The projects that were no longer relevant mainly are due to the implementation of the new Mableton Town Center plan. Those strategies were relevant to the earlier plan, and when the new Mableton Town Center or the form-based code was developed, it sort of those initiatives or those items were no longer consistent with the plan, so they were no longer relevant. And on the right side of the plan is some of the key tasks that were completed in the last 5 years. The process of updating the LCI study did not require a public meeting, but staff felt it necessary to inform the community of the update process and solicit comments that could potentially develop into additional implementation items. On November 20th, staff conducted a public meeting at the South Cobb Community Center where 26 community representatives were present. After the presentation that described the updated process, the attendees were asked to do a SWOT analysis, or strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, or threats, to identify some of the issues and opportunities that could be part of the Mableton LCI area, and include some of those opportunities and issues into our next 5-year plan. And speaking of the next plan, as part of the 5-year update, obviously I mentioned it earlier, LCI communities are required to include an updated 5-year action plan that will ensure continued plan implementation, as well as providing an opportunity to capture LCI funds for future projects. A complete detailed list of these items can be found near the end of the 5-year document. In summary, investment in transportation infrastructure will continue with the second phase of the Floyd Road project from Clay Road to Veterans Memorial, which is under construction now, as well as the Walker Drive extension and Town Square, which is expected to start later this year. Most of the housing initiatives are ongoing initiatives, and some of the new projects in the plan include a marketing and branding strategy that incorporates all of South Cobb, but does include the Mableton LCI area, as well as in our 2016 SPLOS, Parks and Rec has identified the Mabel House complex for improvements, and the library system has also identified the South Cobb Regional Library for upgrades. And a complete list can be found within our updated 5-year document. And that concludes the Mableton 5-year update. Community development staff respectfully ask that you recommend approval of the historic Mableton Preservation Improvement Plan 5-year update to the Board of Commissioners, so that staff and community can continue to work toward implementing this evolving Mableton LCI and assisting in redevelopment and quality life efforts.
Is this available online, this report?
Yes, it is.
It is available online. Mableton's needed to be kick-started for quite some time, and it has kick-started. I think if you go over there now and see the old school is gone, they have a brand-new elementary school. That entire corridor has been rebuilt, lots of improvements to the roads. As Philip said, there's some things underway right now. Mableton is a happening place. And in no short order, I hope we see a lot more development, especially residential, which will then kickstart some commercial development, which we need there badly. Lisa Cupid is all over this, and I know she's very pleased with this, and we're glad to see it as well. You've done a great job. You guys have.
Thank you.
Galt, you want to make the motion since this is in your area?
Sure. I'll definitely echo all the remarks that Mike just said. I really think Mableton's making great progress, and happy to make a motion that we recommend approval of the Historic Mableton Preservation and Improvement Plan 5-year update to the Board of Commissioners.
This will be heard by them on the 27th of January.
Yep.
So we have a motion and a second to send this to them for their consideration. All in favor of the motion? So that passes. Nice job, guys. Thank you very much. I don't think we have any further business. Madam Clerk, Dana? Deborah, we stand adjourned. Thank you all very much for coming.